Hey there, Groovesters, Groove Stars, Ridgely here with another Groove Growth program. And I am here with a very, very, very dear friend. We go way back. She looks very young. I'm looking kind of old over here. Founder of multiple companies, currently calls herself Aunt Sue, founder of Boss Babe Brands, and a newest adventure, enterprise, endeavor, which I'm super excited about, which is Biatch Tequila. Sue, thanks so much. Check those bottles out. I love that. Hold those for a second. Guys, I hope everybody's paying attention. Those are in the shape of lips. Tell us, before we get into everything else, how did you come up with this whole idea for Biatch Tequila and a little bit more about it? This is so cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. I was helping somebody with their tequila and met my business partner through them. She had come to me with this idea, and I did a little research. And I'm a non-emotional business person, so I did a lot of research and went out there. And I'm like, oh my God, I think we could do something with this to make it into a liquor bottle. So now, 2 years later, in June, it'll be 2 years. We're finally ready to be out there. So we'll be live come August, that people will be able to actually buy it online in August and then go forward. I mean, really, I think this is going to be a $1 billion brand. It's all about women empowerment. It's not just about drinking tequila. And our big goal is for 50 women to be millionaires. And me, I've already made my big splash in the world. And really my next thing is legacy and bringing up all those other women to come up to a different level. So that's what we're doing.
And I think it's super cool. And just to clarify what you just said, I know that I was denied the opportunity to invest in this situation. But my daughter, Camille, who is a girl, was offered that possibility by you. So tell us why you made that choice to say, hey, this is for women, all about women, by women. I mean, you've made some very specific choices. Tell us why and how that came about.
So if you really think about it, we as women have a hard time going out and getting money when we start a venture. And what I thought was very important is for me to give an opportunity to women. And, everyone's like, oh, you're excluding, but, you guys, I'm sure originally you've been out there and people are like, oh, look at this great thing I got to invest in. Do you want to invest in this and this? And women in general, we sit around and we don't talk about that kind of stuff. So one thing that I am very adamant about is to get women involved in that whole idea of investing. And then, there's lots of stuff that women are really good at. We're very good at brand loyalty. We're very good at word of mouth in terms of, oh, I love this. You got to try this. And so really, I said, you know what? I think this is an opportunity for us to do something really big for women. And and this is the whole idea behind Biatch, is that it's for women, by women. It's not some guy coming in and telling us, oh, you got to drink this, you're a girl. Like, everything about it is women. So all of our investors are women. Everyone in our supply chain, as much as possible, are women. And really, people are coming to us that we're working with. They're like, wow, this is such a great environment, because women in general, we make decisions quickly. We're very decisive. If it doesn't work out, well, we just kind of do the boat. And I think in general, men like overanalyze and call back the next day and say, let's change this. And we're like, I think it's that motherly thing, is that, you can tell your kids to do this and they do something else. And we're like, okay, well, we'll just realign the ship and make them go forward. So I think that's what my baby is doing.
I think that's so amazing. We've been friends for a very long time and in a mastermind together called EO, called a forum. And I remember back to when you were planning the house that you built. I remember when it was just dirt. Yes. I remember you showing us a hole for the swimming pool. And now there you are sitting in this beautiful home, which is ginormous, right? A ginormous mansion that you have, launching a new tequila for women, by women. It's like, what a great journey. Never mind the fact of all the Oracle stuff that you did and software and everything else and investments and apartments, et cetera. But tell us a little bit about, where did your original entrepreneurial journey start? Give us a little bit of the history, the background.
Yeah, I think it really starts when you're a kid. You know, I know you are the same. We have that hustler, right? I'm a hustler. I actually, you know, people poo-poo McDonald's, but remember, I started in McDonald's in high school. And one of the things that I learned at McDonald's was procedures. They made us sit and watch for the first week all about the procedure of how to, you know, put your uniform on, how to make every hamburger the same so that it tastes the same. And I think what happened was that instilled in me this journey of my company, which was standard operating procedures. And believe it or not, that's what I'm doing here with our tequila. It's all about a process and making sure we document that process. And that entrepreneur thing, look, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad had a day job, and then in the night job, he did all kinds of things, from construction to roofing to just whatever. And, you know, my whole family are entrepreneurs. My brothers and my sister did some stuff. So, you know, I think it's kind of, you're thrown in, and your environment says, oh yeah, you're a risk taker. You're going to go in, and we're not afraid to do stuff. And the other thing I think that helps is, you know, I grew up poor, so I know what it's like to be poor. I'm not going to be poor again, but I'm not afraid. So I think that's kind of what drives you and drives an entrepreneur, if you will.
And after you finished with your education, if you will, what was your first venture that kind of put you on the map, so to speak, financially?
Well, yeah, during school, like all during college, I was again a hustler. I always knew how to make money. I did coaching, I did tutoring, I did, you know, trading, whatever, like all these different kinds of things. And then, you know, after school, I tried to work for a company, and I always had to make it better. Right. So I think we did our why way back when, and mine is to do better, make it better, always make it better. So I worked for a consulting company that I absolutely loved. And it was very entrepreneurial. You know, we got to go into a project. I hired 5 of my friends to come work, and it was great. But then we got sold. And when we got sold by a big company, they didn't know what to do with us, and they kind of put us in a box. And that drove me crazy, because we couldn't exude our entrepreneurial hustler, you know, attributes, if you will. So then what happened was I went out on my own, got a contract, and from then on, haven't looked back. And, you know, I sold my company in 2017. I had almost 100 people at one time, and, you know, I haven't looked back. And you think you're going to retire? Come on, Ridgely, we can't retire. Like, our brains are not wired to be, you know, retirement people. So, you know, you're always thinking of something else to do. I'm involved in nonprofits. You know, I've been on Usher's nonprofit for, 15, 16 years now. And, you know, I'm always trying to help them to do better. And I'm a big fundraiser, you know, those are my roles on all the nonprofits, to get money in. And I'm like, all right, well, I've done that for enough people. I might as well do it for myself. So hence the reason why I started Biatch, and then I'm raising money, and it's going great.
Yeah, I'm so happy for you. And what's so funny is that, you know, you had a massive exit from your last company. I think Biatch is going to be bigger, like by a lot. I think it'd be like, well, check this out. Well, you can't build much bigger house than you live in. Okay, just say it. I don't care how rich you become. It's already kind of ridiculous. So if you were to say to the budding entrepreneurs that are watching or listening, what are 2 characteristics that you feel are really important to being a successful entrepreneur, and of course, worth cultivating?
Yeah. So I think the big thing is you got to be a hustler, and you can't be afraid to fail. My big thing is, look, we've all failed. You've been through a big, huge failure with me. And But what we do is from those failures, we have huge exits from that failure. And I kind of liken entrepreneurs to a lot of the music people. You know, I work with a lot of the music people here in Atlanta, and I think, you know, they're manic, but I also think we entrepreneurs are manic, right? We have the high, and then we kind of like sit back, and then we go low, but then we like bottom out. But out of that bottom out, something in us, like we have to have that bottom out in order for us to be like, get out of it and come back like fighting and being even more resilient and crazy, if you will. But I don't know. I think, but you can't give up, right? And I think a lot of the problems nowadays, a lot of people are afraid to fail, but we, you know, every day we fail. If something doesn't work, oh, well, what the heck? I'll do something different. Or if somebody says no to me, right? I always say, well, that's just a no right now. I know how to ask the question a different way to maybe get a yes. And so I never give up, you know?
And how would you tell people, or how would you coach people to cultivate that hustler mentality and that overcoming of fear, if you will? What would you tell them to do to cultivate that?
You know, I don't know. I would say maybe go and do a sport, right? If you did a sport and you're not number one or you're not top 10, well, that's a failure. It could be a failure, but it's not. It's a stepping stone, right? I'm an athlete. I swam in college. So we know about goals and how to get there. So I think one of the big things is for someone to get a goal and to be honest with themselves. Why didn't they get that goal? Why didn't they achieve it? And again, if you failed at it, be honest with yourself and try to figure out how to overcome that. But really, that hustler, I think you're born. You're either born a hustler or you're not born a hustler. And again, I'm not afraid for someone to tell me no. And you can't take it personally. I think this is one thing that I take from my childhood. I really don't care what people think of me. I think that's one attribute. You know, you can think I'm a bitch. You can think I'm whatever else out there. I've been called everything in the world because I'm in a man's business in general. And, you know, I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. You can call me whatever you want. I don't care. And my dad was that person that wore striped pants and checkered top and looked like a fool. But my dad was like, well, you know, when you're trying to get a cup of coffee on payday and you haven't gotten your paycheck, they're all coming to me for money for coffee. So, you know, it's that mentality of how you perceive yourself. And I think, you know, just hold your head up high and don't let anything chop you down. You just get back up and think of a different way to do it.
You and I couldn't agree more. And you and I have been together in Masterminds for many, many years. So tell me, and for everybody listening, what is the value from your perspective of being in peer-to-peer masterminds or group masterminds that's in your space, whether that's music or online marketing or whatever it may be? What is the value of that? What has that helped you with?
Well, for me personally, it's meant everything, right? We can't anticipate everything that's going to come in your personal life and in your business life. And you need somebody that you can talk to that's a trusted person that's not going to judge you, you know. And again, Ridgely, you know, you and I have been in our EO forum forever. And you know, we know some dark secrets of one another. And I'm not inhibited to tell you what's going on because I know, number one, you're not going to judge me. Number two, that anything that I say is not going to go out of the four walls. And stuff coming back to me is sharing experience, right? You're not going to tell me when I'm down, oh yeah, you should have blah, blah, blah. No, you say, look, here's what I did, or here's what my brother did, here's my sister did, here's what my friend did. And what we can do is it helps us reflect on, you know, things that we can do differently to make our businesses better and our personal lives better. And I'll tell you, you know, people, the things that I have been through, people would like give up and commit suicide over some of the shit that I've been through. But, because of you guys, you're always there and helping. And I think one of the big things, I went to some guy that I knew that was in our EO, and he's like, I slept with a gun underneath my pillow for 2 weeks, and I was mortified. But, we talked to him and talked him through it. And when people think that they have to give up or there's no way out, if you have somebody that you can trust in a peer group that, again, is not going to judge you, it really helps everything. It helps your mentally, it helps business, it helps personal, and they can help you through these little things. I mean, like I said, some of the stuff I couldn't even decide between a black sock and a white sock. Like sometimes it's that overwhelming, but you persevere, you have people you lean on, they come to your help, even taking you out to breakfast or lunch or just being on the phone with you for an hour. And again, you and I have been on those calls, and it's just knowing that you're not alone, and that somebody else has gone through this and can make it out.
Yeah, for sure. And I couldn't agree with you more. I actually had to do an inventory. I'm in 5 different masterminds right now. 5. I'm like, really, man? That's kind of ridiculous. Okay. That's like a little ridiculous, but I don't know if I'm a junkie or what it is, but I'm with you. I love hanging out with my peers smarter than me that I can go to bounce ideas off of. I love also sometimes being the person that mentors others. And I'd love to ask you about that because you're a mentor to many. What is the value of both being a mentor and more for the people watching and listening, finding mentors?
So here's what I always give the example. Again, athlete. If you're going to go and train for the Olympics, are you ever going to go and train and never have a coach? The answer is no, right? So same thing in business. I think instrumentally, you should always have a business coach. I've had a business coach for forever. And in fact, I just sat down with him not a month ago and just work through stuff. And it's very, very important to have what I call, you can call them a mentor, you could call them a business coach, whatever, but somebody who is going to tell you that you're full of shit, somebody that's going to be honest with you, somebody that is going to push you to the limit, and someone who's been through it, right? And I'll tell you, again, my business coach has helped me tremendously. When I had that down in my business and I almost went bankrupt. And he said, I think one of the things that still resonates with me, he said to me, you have a dying body on a gurney. Do you resuscitate it or let it die? And you have to figure that out. So when somebody says that, and that's heart-wrenching. Now, he also said, when you bring it back, it's going to need a lot of therapy. And are you willing to put in that hard work to actually get it back to where it was? And so I'll tell you that took many, many weekends. I mean, I'm talking 12-hour days, like sitting there. I would sit in the sun and be like, okay, now I got to write my business proposition. I have to do all of my roles and what the roles are really, what their everything is, what they're supposed to do. It's just a lot. And do you have the gumption to do that? And that's, again, where the perseverance comes in. That's where the push comes in. And a lot of people don't have that. And again, if it weren't for my business coach, I don't know if I would have been able to be where I am right now with selling my company and things of that sort. And he actually helped me with the sale of my company. He was my trusted advisor to that, right? He was the one that said, okay, well, are you really going to walk away because of this? And he's, again, non-emotional, because once you're in the throes and you're like, I'm not doing that, I'm not, he'd sit back, he'd talk to them, then he'd call me back. And he's like, are you really going to walk away from whatever, 30,000? Or you think it's big, but it's really not in the scheme of things. And it helps. And then being a mentor to others really helps me stay relevant, It's funny because just today I was on a call with I'm an investor in one of the companies, and we're going into year 6, and we have never missed a monthly call ever. So, and she's doing great. And, we focus, we set only 3 goals a month, and we discuss why we didn't make it, if we didn't make it, and are they really goals if they go more than 2 months, those kinds of things. So it's very, very important to have mentors and business coaches.
And in conjunction with that, what about doing also your own personal and professional development? Reading the books, listening to the tapes, going to the conferences. What do you think about that for the entrepreneurs out there?
You have to stay relevant. It's so easy for us to be in our own world and not look at really what the big picture is like. For instance, I know everyone's talking about AI and what that's doing. It's like, holy cow, that could totally change every trajectory. And it was interesting. I saw a bunch of business plans, and not only one of them out of 25 we looked at had anything to do with AI. And it's like, people, how can you ignore a big thing? And I think when you go to a conference, what it does is it pulls you out of your day-to-day, your comfort zone. Like, I might be in my house, I sit on my couch, I'm in my whatever. And then what I do is I get out, and then all these things come at you, and I call them the vectors, right? They're hitting you from all angles. And you're like, oh my God, what about that? What about that? And I'll tell you, one of the things with our tequila company, right, that I absolutely love is every idea that comes from any of our investors, any of the partners, we discuss everything because we don't know. It could have an impact somewhere. And we've gotten some wonderful, wonderful ideas just from people that we're talking to. And again, that's what these conferences spark, and in reading, a lot of the books, they have some, I don't know, I'm not a really good business book reader. I'll take things out of it, or I'll read a few chapters because I like this thing, or somebody will tell me. So I don't know, I might have the ADD of the new generation too. So but I think it's important for you to read. I read probably an hour to 2 hours a day, whether it's internet articles, whether, how to be better business people. I mean, right now I'm learning everything there is that I didn't even want to know about liquor and distribution and all this other stuff. It's like, woo, but you got to, because in order for us to be a good leader, we have to have good information so that when people bring those things to us, bring ideas or what they're going to do, that we know how to steer them, right? We have to be the good leader. And without some form of information to lead them, then, we can't lead them well.
Yeah, I know you and I have been to how many countries to events together all over the world, from Asia to Europe to South America to whatever, that we've been basically seeking more development, professional development, learning from our other peers. It's been, pretty remarkable. So different kind of a lesson. Tell us about a time where there was something that went colossally wrong, or some catastrophe that happened in your business life, and what you took away from that.
Well, I think I alluded to this. I almost went bankrupt with my company at one point. And really what we have to do, and this is, again, with my business coach, you have to really look inside and be honest with yourself. And I'll tell you another thing. Maybe this is a better example for some of the people out there. Every one of us, we're a CEO, and there's only one CEO because we do 8,000 jobs, and we can do all 8,000, but we might hate 10 of them, but we're still really good at it, but we hate it, and it's energy draining. So, we always want that COO. I want that person that, and it's my fault that I went through millions and millions of dollars and a bunch of COOs that didn't work out. And it was really my fault. It was my fault because I didn't spend enough time with them. It was my fault because I didn't spend time with them for the first month and a half to make sure that they were doing the business in that procedure that I wanted them. Like what we're doing is we kind of go, oh, finally I have somebody to offload, and they don't, it's like a baker that didn't tell you how to knead the bread, right? So and you're like, why isn't it kneaded? Why isn't it risen? And it's still flat. Well, because we forgot that special sauce or that special thing that we did. And I think that's something we as entrepreneurs forget. And we have expectations, and people don't live up to the expectations because, number one, we did the wrong thing with our expectations. So what I've learned from that is, number one, write everything down. You have a role, a position description, I call them. So what was interesting is one time I said, oh, I need a salesperson. And when I wrote down exactly what I wanted them to do, I realized that sales wasn't sales. It was an account manager. And I think that's the clarity of stuff that really helps, is that when you write stuff down, number one, you are now showing expectations of that other person. They could look and read. And number two, you have a level to manage them by. Oh, you didn't do number 3. You didn't do number 4. We're very clear when you are hired, here they are. So those are kind of the things that I learned. Because again, from that rock bottom, I had a COO that I thought was doing all this stuff, and we lost clients and whatnot. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to jump back in and get rid of him and all this other stuff. So it was challenging, but you learn. And when you come back, I'll tell you, I came back screaming.
Yes, you did. I was there. That was great. So here's a fun question that I love to pick your brain on. If you could step into a time warp and you could go back 20 years and speak to the Sue, the business gal, amazing venture person that you were 20 years ago, with the wisdom and knowledge that you have today, what would you say to that young Sue from 20 years ago?
And I, me, I'm kind of very free-spirited, and I don't live with regret. And so, truthfully, I think everything I did, every mistake, everything I did, I think made me what I am today. And I think if I changed it, I don't know what I would have been. So it really, I don't know what to say. I would say, just keep going, keep doing, have more fun. I think that's one word of wisdom, is always make sure that you have time for fun and family. And, look, your daughter is like my daughter, for God's sakes. And I've known her since she was a wean, and now she's like a mature woman. And we just have to have fun, and we have to just be love the people that you're with and really enjoy the ride. Don't forget to enjoy the ride. And I think that's it.
Yeah, and yes, you're absolutely right. My daughter adores you, and Aunt Sue is Aunt Sue. There's only one Aunt Sue in this world. That's you. But why do you think it is that entrepreneurs have that tendency to forget about that fun and that enjoyment thing, get so caught up in their stuff? Why do you think that is?
I think because we're intense. And it's funny because I have somebody helping me this week, with a specific e-commerce. And that's what she's going to be doing for the next 4 months. And we got over this really big hurdle. And she goes, you're not celebrating. We need to celebrate. And I'm like, let's keep going. I think that's what it is. And meanwhile, when I mentor someone, I always tell them the same thing. Oh, we reach a milestone. Don't forget to celebrate. And meanwhile, that's probably one thing that I don't practice what I preach. But I think because, our minds are so driven on the end that we don't let anything stop. And then, if I celebrate, I'm not going to get to where I need to get. And I think that's kind of how it is. But we should celebrate.
Right? I think so. I think the more mature I become, the more I think that's important above a lot of stuff.
For
So,
sure.
3 resources, 3 books, something that you would recommend to entrepreneurs that are out there that have helped you and that you believe would serve others. What would you recommend?
Oh, I'm not really good at the book thing, but I'm a real podcast person, right? And I'm going to tell you, because I'm in social media and stuff, I'm a big Gary Vee fan. Like, the guy is a wacko, he's all over the place, but I love him. And some of the stuff that he puts out, I really love to read all of his Gary Vee stuff. I think that's one person, just because he has so much insight of what's going on from an marketing kind of thing. That's I like, if you're in a product, you have to know what's going on in all the social media platforms. And I'll tell you, he's probably religiously one of the people that I read on a weekly basis. So that's probably the only one that I really, really do. I mean, I've read all the books, Good to Great and the Sales and all this other stuff. I mean, they're good. They've got good tidbits in it. But, I'm a real live person. I relate to people. So I enjoy more that podcast, that more listening to other people's experiences, more than just reading a book and coming up with my own conclusions, I guess.
Do you have any other podcasts that you would recommend besides Gary Vee's?
No, I just, I listen to so many. Like, I don't like to go to one. Like, I like to go to both extremes and then come in the middle and like listen to everything. Because I don't think we know what's going on unless we hear what the extremists are actually saying. And then you come in the middle and you're like, okay, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then mix it up, and that's the truth. And so I don't know. I just read. I'm read.
Well, and I love that. And I know you've been very active in the political spectrum, in the political arena as well. And one of the things that I try to do periodically is I have my favorite network. I'm not going to say which one it is, but I'll always go to the exact opposite network to it. Take a look at what they're saying. Even though I generally find it to be completely ridiculous, at least I'm listening to both sides so that you don't get stuck. Right.
Yep, absolutely. Because the truth is somewhere in the middle.
So what about this whole AI thing? I want to hear your take on the whole AI thing, because now it's become, quite relevant as we move forward. So what do you think?
I think it's fabulous. I think it's going to change the way a lot of people do business. I think education is actually going to change a lot. People writing 20-page papers, is that really going to help you? What's better? Even like math. Remember, I'm a master's degree of mathematics, and you couldn't use your calculator and all this other stuff. Like, kids are learning at such a fast pace that I don't think we could take AI out of the equation anymore. I think we should use it to our advantage. Like, for instance, to show patterns, buy patterns. Let's talk about, okay, who would buy this? Like, who's my core customer? Who maybe I think it is, but why don't we analyze all of the people that are maybe following me on Instagram, maybe following Biatch Tequila on Facebook and all this other stuff, and come up with who they think the buyer is. And I think it's wonderful. And I don't think there's enough apps out there right now that are really taking advantage of it. And I think that's what's really going to happen, is people have really got to embrace it. And how do we use it? How do we use it for the good? Now, it also could be used for the bad. So I think there is some form of that we have to be careful, right? We've heard all these songs by, these dead song people, and it sounds exactly like them. And so now, this quote unquote, the fake news and all that, like, we have to be very careful, because somebody can make a video of you and I saying something that we never even really said. And how are you going to be able to tell that it's them or not them?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I do think you're right. We've gotten to a stage where, certainly for the purpose of research, that seems to be a very much of a fit for AI. I'm looking forward to continuing dialogues to see where else does this go, and holding a belief that if you want to be in business today, you better be paying attention to this, because otherwise you could quickly get left behind.
Yep. Well, it's kind of like, people that didn't get on social media that are trying to sell a product. I don't know how you sell a product nowadays, like, a consumer product, without being on social media. It's the cheapest, fastest way to get to the consumer.
Exactly right. All right. As we're wrapping up, final words of wisdom to the young entrepreneur, not necessarily young in age, but young on their journey at whatever age they may be. Final words of wisdom from Sue Cribb, entrepreneur extraordinaire forever, right? And by the way, the founder of BH Tequila, about to come out. Very, very cool. What would you want to say to all those that are out there listening now?
I would just say, find your passion and don't let anyone tell you no. You're the one that has to tell yourself no, and just keep moving on. Because if I told you every person that said this biatch tequila is not going to make it, and I would have, like, why would I stop? Like, first of all, who are they? They don't know me. They don't know who I am. They don't know who I know, etc. And it wouldn't be where it is today. And watch, we are going to be $2 billion or IPO, we women.
That's I love that. Find your passion and don't let anyone tell you no. My great friend, I love you a ton. Thank you so very much for giving us the time and your wisdom today. You are so deeply, deeply appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ridgely. Love you.